Ooh, we've made it to the interlude. Does that mean we're close to chapter 1? Mayhap? Endgame, let's go. I was aware of voices before I fully awakened. 2 of them, masculine and speaking in low words that were a mere buzz. My head throbbed as I tried to work up enough saliva to swallow. Everything was hot. It felt like I was dying. But I couldn't die. Whoa. Hello. I know that you're dateable as well. I like our new medical garb. That's great. Hi. Awesome. Met another boy. Okay, I'll be real. He's one of the guys that I'm the most interested in for reasons. Alright, you know I like me some Megane, okay? That's all I have to say on the matter. Anyway. I forced my eyes open and, through the haze, saw 2 people leaning over me. A broken, disordered series of images flashed through my mind. The car, the explosion, gunshots, a strange man with odd eyes. It wasn't a dream! The realization hit me and I let out an undignified shriek as I bolted upright. Where was I? I didn't know these people! In the back of my mind, I did think one was vaguely familiar, but most prominent was the feeling of terror. I acted on instinct. The men jumped back, but I was already launching myself up and off the bed. I saw a blurry head of blonde hair try to duck away, but not before my elbow connected with it. Oof. Magnus! He and I hit the ground at the same time, but I didn't stop. The other man came around the end of the bed, but I scrambled away. Have to get home. I guess there's probably some slight amnesia from the psi overuse, potentially. I burst through the door into a hall, my bare feet slapping against the tiled floor. It's very clean looking. Everything hurt, but I still ran. The people in the hall were blurs and colored blobs as I sprinted past. A few of them reached for me, but I shouted and staggered away from them. One was a blonde doctor who was just seconds too late to grab me. Where was I going? I didn't know. Outside, I hoped. I rounded a corner, almost toppling as I tried to make the sharp turn. My fingers brushed the floor as I steadied myself and continued to flee. Behind me, people were following. I ran past rows of chairs, stopping to pull some out and into the path. Why couldn't I find an exit? My head hurt. So much. Spots swam in and out of my vision. Every memory and thought felt disconnected, discordant. There was only the vision of fractured rainbow light and the sound of everything crumbling around me. I bolted past door after door until I thought I would vomit. It was a maze with no way out. I turned down another corridor, confronted with a blurry dead end ahead. Oh, it's a dark room. The voices behind me drew closer, so I veered into a room on my right and slammed my hand on a control panel to shut the door before shoving a bed across it. I made sure it was wedged against the inner lip so the door couldn't slide open easily. No windows. No way out. I backed against the far wall, using it to lean against as I stared at the now blocked exit. Where had they taken me? Who had taken me? Someone tried to open the door. The bed made a horrific scrape as they pushed it back slightly. I grabbed a glass jar with swabs from a nearby counter and hurled it at the door. It shattered, and whoever was trying to come inside jerked the door back shut. Voices spoke right outside, one angry and one amused. I can only guess which one's the angry one. I gripped my skull and slid down the wall with a soft groan. The voices argued, and I let my head drop against my knees. I remembered the rainbow room, the woman shooting at us, a man with strange eyes, but not much more. How long had I been unconscious? And where was I now? Someone tried to open the door again, and I struggled to my feet to respond with another glass jar. Stay away! There were a few moments of silence. The door opened a few centimeters.
We're not going to hurt you.
I said stay away! I readied another glass jar, just in case.
curiosity, what will you do once you run out of jars?
I responded by throwing the one in my hand. The door slammed shut, but this time I heard laughter. Ugh. I hit the floor again, straining to hear what was being said outside over the roar of blood in my ears. I was so hot, dizzy. My heart felt like it was about to explode. What should I do now? You know, it'd be kind of handy to have a knight around that could teleport in here.
So how long do you think this standoff will last?
The man with the amused-sounding voice.
She shouldn't be out of bed, awake or not, much less tearing through the hall screaming and throwing things. It's a wonder she can even move. At the last check, she was still running a high fever, and her blood pressure was very nearly at the level of hypertensive crisis.
That was a different voice, one I hadn't heard before.
What were you fools doing that she slipped past you anyway? Well, she woke up pretty damn suddenly. We weren't expecting her to bolt up and knock one of us out.
She broke my glasses, too.
Aw, oh no, I'm so sorry. So now there were at least 3 people. The grumpy voice, the amused voice, and someone else.
You imbeciles! We need to get her out of there! At the moment, she seems intent on throwing something at anyone who opens the door. Am I supposed to believe that is enough to stop you lot of monsters?
A 4th voice broke in there. Who is all these voices?
If we startle her too much, she may...
I couldn't keep up anymore. I shut my eyes, though it didn't stop the feeling of everything spinning like crazy. The voices faded to a dull murmur. After some time, I had a vague awareness of the door opening again. I scowled and jerked my head up. The movement sent my vision reeling, and I had to brace myself against the nearby cabinet to stay upright. The figures silhouetted in the door... they were... familiar. It was... oh, I get to pick. Nice. The grumpy kidnapper, the tall kidnapper, that blonde guy from before, or the doctor from the hallway. Okay, so grumpy kidnapper's probably Caleb. Tall kidnapper's gonna be Ari, so Ari's one of the people out there. The blonde guy from before, probably glasses dude. And the doctor from the hallway, she kind of mentioned him briefly, and I'm imagining it's the one guy on the menu screen that's like near the bottom to the right? That's who I'm picturing. I could be wrong. Well, obviously we want our tall kidnapper boy in here, so... hello. Aw, this is so nice. I love that it tells you which route you're starting on when you pick these choices. Such a nice thing. Big fan. Yes. Hi. For a long moment, the man just stood in the doorway. I couldn't see his expression clearly, but I knew him anyway. The tall kidnapper. His name was... Ari. I spoke first. Where am I?
You're at Cor Solaris. Do you not remember?
My voice trailed off as a memory surfaced, or tried to. I sort of recalled being in an alley with him and a woman in a white uniform. I don't know. My head is a mess. Hurts. It's hard to think. He stood there a moment longer before he came across the room towards me. Also, can I just say I really love this piece of music right now? It's just, I don't know, I'm vibing with it real hard. I wanted to get away, but didn't have the energy. Everything hurt. The world spun around me. Or maybe I was spinning. When Ari reached for me, I flinched, but he simply placed a cool hand against my scorching forehead.
The doctor said you have a fever. I'm hardly a physician, but your face is very warm.
In a daze, I caught his hand and pressed his cold fingers to my cheek. Oh. Feels good. Strangely, he let me do it.
Morgan,
will you return to your room with me so they can continue your treatment? Your psi fatigue appears to be severe, and you've only exacerbated it by trying to flee.
I shook my head, regretting the movement when it sent spikes of pain and dizziness through me. Ari moved a little closer, steadying me as I swayed. I just leaned against him for the time being, wishing the room would stop spinning. Don't want to. I want to go home.
Is that why you fled?
I don't know. Didn't remember where I was. Woke up with people over me. I panicked.
I understand. And I regret to inform you that you'll be unable to go home for the time being. In addition to your medical condition, which is quite poor, it is also unsafe.
His voice started to fade into a buzz, but I tried to keep focused. He was saying I couldn't go home. I already knew that. I squeezed my eyes shut.
You'll be well cared for here. No one will harm you.
Will you stay with me? I didn't know why I asked that. I mean, he's got a very calming presence. I'd want him nearby. Oh, he almost did the as you wish. If he had said as you wish, I would have been over the moon. But if you wish is pretty close, so...
If you wish.
I don't want to be alone.
I'll stay with you if you return to your room.
I nodded and made a muffled noise of agreement. Everything hurt. I wanted to sleep, but I didn't want to wake up surrounded by strangers again. Ari picked me up effortlessly, and I settled against him, hot, dizzy, and feeling awful. This boy, let's go! Oh, he really did break his glasses. He's like, I have no glasses anymore. This is fine. Sorry, psi fatigue. When we stepped into the hall, several people were waiting. A man I assumed was the doctor, and some others. I thought one was the blonde I hit in the head. He was a blurry white and yellow blob, but I could hear the smile as he fell into step beside us. Apparently we already know he's Magnus. Good, good.
The lady killer strikes again. I knew sending you was a good idea.
Yep, good call on that count.
Please lower your voice. She appears to be in significant pain.
Oh, no, you're the other... Okay. You're not who I was picturing. Yeah, you're... I can't remember your name. I know you're on the left in the menu screen, but anyway.
Of course she's in pain. She's lucky it's only pain and that she isn't off in a lonely corner somewhere dying. Doctor, perhaps you should lower your voice as well. In addition, I doubt scaring her will be of any help in this situation.
Ari,
Yes?
do you really kill women? Only on Tuesdays. And today's Wednesday, so you're fine. I felt the gentle rise and fall of his chest as he sighed.
Go to sleep, Morgan.
So I did. I didn't even remember the walk back, much less being returned to my room or anything that happened after. Hey, we did it! We made it to Ari's route. Chapter 1. Core Solaris. How you doing? Hopefully a bit better. The shift from sleep to waking was abrupt. My dream was crystal clear for a split second before it faded into nothing, and I was left staring at a blank ceiling. From above me, I heard the steady hum of medical equipment. Soft beeps, the gurgle of an IV. Where... Trying to sit up was not a good idea. The moment I moved, a wave of dizziness hit me, bringing nausea with it. I put a hand to my face, swallowing hard to quell the roiling queasiness in my stomach. My eyes also felt... strange. Part of my mind was making some attempt at working out where I was, but the rest of me was just trying not to vomit. A shuffle of movement nearby alerted me that someone was there. They stood the moment I turned, moving into my line of sight. He waited with you. Aw, man, this guy's a good one. As soon as I saw him, everything came flooding back. being grabbed off the street, the vivarium where the woman attacked us, the man in the dark corridor, Jack. This had to be Cor Solaris. The headquarters of Endgame. It is a massive... I was like, did I read this already? Yes. I think so. I remember reading Bracelet. I still don't know if I'm saying that right. And it's not just a single tower, so I think we're good on that front. I managed to struggle into a sitting position. Ari watched me wordlessly, his body tense.
You shouldn't try to move yet.
There was so much I wanted to ask. How long I'd been asleep, if I really was at their headquarters, what had happened while I was unconscious. My thoughts were too jumbled for me to form coherent sentences.
Not going to leap up and elbow anyone in the head this time.
Until he spoke, I hadn't even realized Caleb was standing near the door, arms crossed over his chest. Glaring. What does he look so mad about? Wait. It took a moment for my brain to catch up to what he said. Elbowing someone in the head? The word came out as a hoarse croak. My mouth was so dry. Trying to speak felt like coughing up sand. Ari paced around the bed to the table on my other side. I watched him with bleary eyes as he poured water from a carafe I hadn't noticed earlier.
Drink this. You've been in and out of consciousness for several days.
He lifted the cup to my mouth to help me drink. What? Several days? I covered Ari's hands with mine, but didn't take the cup from him when I realized how much I was shaking.
Better?
I nodded, wiping my face. Where am I? I still sounded hoarse, but at least I got the words out this time.
You're at the Cor Solaris, in our medical ward.
Why do I feel like I was hit by a cargo transport?
Because you're recovering from a rather severe case of psi fatigue, presumably.
And what was Caleb saying about elbowing someone in the head?
Do you not recall when you woke and tried to escape?
No. The last thing I remembered was being in that alley with the woman in white.
How convenient.
I let out a slow breath, not wanting to pick a fight with someone right after waking up. Again. And especially not when I still felt like last week's rubbish. If something happened, it would be more helpful to just tell me what it was without being cryptic.
You nearly gave the leader of Endgame a concussion when you elbowed him in the head during your little escape attempt.
He's the leader of Endgame? Cute glasses guy? Aw, dang. I stared at him with what must have been a confused expression. My what now?
Your escape attempt. You ran down the hall in a delirium-induced terror. You barricaded yourself in a room and spent half an hour throwing glass jars at the door anytime one of us attempted to enter.
Ah.
It set off a massive panic through the entire medical wing as we all tried to figure out how the hell to get you back into your room without hurting anyone.
For the record, none of that sounds remotely familiar to me.
You had a high fever at the time, and weren't in a normal state of mind.
Ah. So Caleb's just using it as an opportunity to yell at me, though it wasn't my fault.
You! Caleb, if you're going to antagonize her, perhaps you should leave.
His jaw worked as if he wanted to say something else, but he turned and left the room, his heavy footsteps disappearing into the hall. Poor Caleb, he's so done. I stared after him, blinking my eyes a few times before giving them a good rub. Is angry his natural state, or does he just hate me in particular?
He's on edge, which often manifests as being short-tempered with others.
He's on edge because I was delirious enough to elbow someone in the head? Well, and barricading myself in a room and throwing things.
That isn't the only reason.
Did I do something worse than that?
I was eventually able to enter the room and relocate you back to your bed. However, since then, you've had several surges of unstable psi energy. Your previous room was badly damaged, along with some medical equipment.
Was anyone hurt?
Nothing serious. Only mild abrasions.
Thank goodness.
The uncontrolled power surging was likely brought on by the stress of your attempted escape. They attempted to place a psi inhibitor on you for your own safety, as you were increasing your fatigue symptoms.
A device that is able to cancel out psi or suppress psi waves, rendering a person's psi unusable. There are variations in how they work as well as whether they weaken or fully suppress psi. The usual technique involves some kind of destructive interference to a person's psi waves, but some psi inhibitors also focus on suppressing a person's nanosystem in specific ways that can interfere with psi. The latter technique only works on N-class Espers. Because of the complexity of ranked Esper psi waves, many inhibitors dampen but do not fully suppress an Esper's psi.
But it had no effect on your abilities.
Either because she's a queen or she's a fairy queen, so you know.
An Esper immune to psi inhibitors is uncharted territory for Endgame. Hence, everyone is on edge.
It sounds like I caused quite a lot of problems.
It was more worrying than inconvenient. For a while, I believe they feared they would lose you.
Wow. That bad? Exactly how long have I been here?
4 days.
I sank back onto the bed, trying to take that in. 4 days. This psi fatigue thing seemed pretty serious. To be honest, I didn't know much about it, though the name made it obvious what it was.
Your condition has stabilized considerably in the last 40 hours. The incident 4 days ago caused a swell in your psi development similar to what we see in some children when their psi first emerges. If the growth occurs too quickly, we refer to it as a power surge. It's a relatively common phenomenon.
Yeah, didn't we read about that before? Maybe not. A power surge is a sudden and dramatic increase in a person's psi energy. I think we read about it in connection with fade symptoms, so I think, yeah, it was under this that we learned about power surges. Surging can be caused by numerous situations: emotions, psi overuse, or even awakening. Though uncommon, even normal people and pseudo-espers can experience a power surge if they are put in a very emotionally stressful situation. Though mild to moderate surges are considered normal, it is possible for someone to experience a massive power surge all at once during stressful situations. These are dangerous and can lead to severe psi fatigue, fade, or even burnout. This is a particular issue for F-class espers, whose psi is generally more sensitive to their emotional state. Oh boy, well, that's good to know.
It can also occur in adults during times of emotional stress. There's no need for concern.
Sounds more like it's everyone else that's concerned.
You produced one of the largest psi bursts any of us has ever seen. For your abilities to verge on spiraling out of control was disconcerting. Our doctors are not accustomed to dealing with uncontrollable psi at this strength. While children lack control, their psi is also less developed.
Even queen ranks?
Yes. The previous queen learned to contain her abilities before they neared your current level.
I rubbed my forehead again, trying to parse all that information. What happened to all the people who were, chasing and attacking us?
If you're concerned about your safety, I assure you none of them will be able to reach you here.
Endgame headquarters, huh? I want to get up and look around.
I don't believe that's wise. You can always have a look when you've recovered more.
I want to look around now. What's the problem with that? Throwing the blanket back, I tried to swing my legs over the side of the bed. Ari put his hands on my shoulders to stop me.
Morgan, you need to rest.
Analytical, cautious, or stubborn. All three of his favorite things. Ask him to please let you go. Stay where you are for now, or push his hands away and get up anyway. Okay, I'm on my own now from this point on. I only had choices up in the common route, so now that I'm in chapter 1, I'm all my lonesome. I don't think analytical is gonna work. He's just gonna, like, stare at me and be like, I said no. So I either have to be cautious or stubborn. He does like stubborn, though. I need to pick my battles with the cautious, stubborn things. I think now's a good time to be stubborn, actually. We're relatively safe. She's doing good. Yeah, let's be stubborn. I shrugged his hands off and pushed him away. I want to see where I am.
I told you where you are.
And I want to see it with my own eyes.
Then you don't believe me.
He didn't seem angry at the idea, only baffled. I got shakily to my feet. I believe you, Ari, but that doesn't mean I don't need to see it myself before I can relax. I've been through a lot. I rolled the stiffness out of my neck and shoulders. It was surprising I wasn't in more pain, but that was probably a testament to how long I'd slept.
You just woke up only a few moments ago after sleeping for several days. I'm certain it would be better if you waited.
I'm going for a short walk. I won't die from that much. You can come with me, or I can go alone. But short of you holding me down or tying me up, I am going. Ari crossed his arms, resting one hand against the side of his face. He tapped his forefinger against his temple as he looked at me. That squint he's giving me right now. Like, And finally, he turned and went to a nearby cabinet from which he pulled a set of clothes.
I'm not concerned that you'll die. There's a large gray area between something being unwise and something involving death.
Like trying to run away?
I'm not concerned about that either.
Well, he could teleport after all. Even if I could mimic him, I wasn't up for a game of chase, and I suspected he knew that. Ari stepped away and pressed a button on the wall, which caused a thin divider to slide open and block my view of him. If you're not concerned about me running away, why are you so hesitant for me to go on a short walk? With one glance back to make sure I had privacy, I stripped out of the gown. I tossed it on the bed, pausing to steady myself once.
Psi fatigue is a serious ailment, Morgan. Perhaps you're unaware how serious since you didn't use your abilities until now. However, that fact is also likely why your case was so severe this time. As I told you, it was bad enough we were concerned we'd lose you.
Something about the way he said that irritated me. Afraid you'd lose your new Esper right after finding her? That would be a shame. The words sounded far more bitter than I intended. Ari was silent a moment, and I wasn't sure if he was taken aback by my tone or trying to find a diplomatic way to answer.
It would be false to imply that wasn't part of the issue. Espers of your caliber are rare, so losing you straight away would have been a serious loss for Endgame.
I knew it.
The Council, in particular, would have been devastated.
Endgame's council is the ruling body that heads the entire organization. The 9-person council is made up almost entirely of non-Espers, and are considered the final decision makers for all of Endgame's most important decisions. Really? So a count... So... Sorry, my brain's trying to catch up. So Endgame is run by non-Espers, even though everybody else in Endgame are Espers? Fascinating. I don't even remember if I read the rest of this. They're considered the final decision makers for all of... Yeah, okay, I think I did. Blech. The council delegates day-to-day decisions to department heads and other leaders within the organization, but big decisions are always debated by and decided upon by the council itself. The council is advised by some Espers or Esper groups, such as the Head King rank and the Moirai. But, though considered the head of the Esper forces, many consider Magnus Ulrich little more than a figurehead at the beck and call of the council itself. So, okay, that's Glasses guy. So, he's not on the council? Is he above the council, but not really? Does that mean he's also not an Esper? I have so many questions.
But you shouldn't assume that's the only reason. Losing any citizen is a tragedy we try to avoid, whether they're one of us or not. If you had died, it would have been a critical failure by those of us sent to retrieve you.
I sat on the bed to pull on my shoes, mulling that over. Mission failure, huh?
As you don't seem to need help, I'll wait outside. We should be quick about this, otherwise Dr. Sasaki will notice. And he will not be pleased you are up.
I heard the door open and shut. It was almost cute he had stayed because he thought I might need help changing. I had assumed he waited around so he could catch me if I tried to run. Nah, he's just a wholesome little bean. And also a strange man. Alone for the first time since I woke up, I finally just took a moment to breathe and get my bearings again. It all happened. Some memories were a little hazy, but it was all real. That was difficult to grasp. A few days ago, my world was school and exams. Now it was one of Esper's and being chased and shot at. How does that just happen? What am I supposed to do now? I set 2 fingers against one of my eyes. No amount of rubbing them would help. A door I'd chained shut my entire life had opened, and now I could see through it. I glanced at the empty cup on the bedside table. It was like I could look at it and see the force of the cup pressing against the table, and the table and air pressing on the cup. I couldn't really see it. It was more like an awareness. It was like I knew exactly how hard to push to make it fly across the room, or to snap it in half. The cup wobbled, and I shifted my attention elsewhere as a slight stabbing pain lanced through my temple. Maybe take it easy with the, force abilities for a big girl. This wasn't what I wanted. What would Mom and Dad think of it all? Did they even know where I was? I tried to pull up my messages. Because if Endgame hadn't contacted them, Mom was probably in a panic by now. But nothing. The message screen wouldn't even show. What? It wasn't possible my access to the net was still cut. That didn't make sense if I'd lost connectivity because of someone dampening the connection while we were at that vivarium. Jack had said that maybe my psi was impacting it as well, but that was 4 days ago. Hadn't ARI said my psi stabilized? Is it possible Endgame cut my connection? Keeping me here whether or not I wanted to be here, and isolating me with no connection to the outside world was not helping make ARI's case about my not being a prisoner. I finished dressing and went to join him in the hall.